Welcome at Enjoy Your Money With.
Jaco Quadrat. Prof, fun being back with you in the studio. Again, I have to say that. But apparently it's fun. That's what you're telling me to tell the world.
You better tell that.
Yeah, but no, it's on a serious note, it is actually fun. This is why we are doing it. I mean, it's
probably the only reason why we are doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know if the listeners have any fun, but at least we do.
Yeah, I don't know. It's maybe painstakingly for them. But what we can tell the listeners, we don't get paid for this. So
not at all. So, Jaco, while you are there, I want to really invite the listeners, please tell us what you think about the program. You can send us a WhatsApp here in the studio, 066 5166 917. Or if you want to listen to all the previous nonsense Jaco and I talked, you can go to Spotify or SoundCloud, look for Live FM, and then Enjoy Your Money.
Prof, after last week where you shot down my investment strategy, where I should not go for...
So did you actually listen?
I thought about it, but so what was it? Affinity bias. I came up with remember last week I wanted to buy all the shares that I use the products of.
Yes.
Okay. So this week, I think this is foolproof, Prof.
Oh, no.
When people start talking about the share, I'm just going to buy it. I think that's what I'm going to do.
Oh,
because if the world talks about it, there must be a good reason to invest in it.
Jaco, you know that by the time that message reaches you're just in time for trouble.
Especially me, because I'm always the last one to find some stuff out. So that was obviously just not on a too serious note.
Jaco, and that's what we are discussing today, herding bias. A very powerful emotional bias, and it's just because we as humans naturally like to follow the crowd.
So if lots of people are doing something, we just assume it's the right thing to do. But history, Prof, teaches us
so repeatedly
that it teaches us something very important, and that is that crowds can be spectacularly wrong.
Definitely. Jaco, and again, like we have said before, these days with social media, with YouTube influencers, with TikTok, people actually getting paid to promote stuff. WhatsApp groups that you talked about. It's never been easier to be exposed to what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, so and if everyone else is doing it, it must be the right thing.
Of course, Jaco, because if everybody is buying it, I don't want to miss out, and I need to get in before it's too late.
Yeah,
there's a few sentences that we often hear around the braai.
Yeah, and we're going to mention that again. But Prof, I think on this note, I think the listeners are now so excited they can't wait for the rest of the episode. Let's take a quick music break, and after that, we'll go into more detail about herding bias.
Welcome back after the break. We are talking herding bias. It's the last bias in this series that we specifically talk about.
But it's not the end of the series. Unfortunately for the listeners. Prof, I'm really looking forward to today's Bible verses. I think when we saw it, we thought to ourselves, wow, yeah. So here it comes.
So Jaco, today my verse comes from Romans 12, verse 2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by renewing your mind. Jaco, and we have talked about it and said that this is the reason behind the series, just so that we can sometimes pause and think about it, renew our mind.
Yeah, and I really hope throughout the series there were some of these biases that people can actually say, yeah, I can see that in me. I must be careful of that. And if we achieve that, Prof, we achieved our objective. My Bible verse, and Prof, I had a choice, and I almost want to go back to the other one as well. But the one for today, Exodus 23, verse 2, do not follow the crowd in doing wrong.
Sure.
Yeah.
These two verses are so spot on for this bias.
Yeah. The only problem, I think, if I now have to say that, with a lot of things, we can see when people are doing the wrong thing. I think with investments,
Oh,
it's a bit more difficult to know whether it's the right or
much
the wrong
more
thing.
difficult,
Okay, whereas with, I think the way that the scripture was mentioned there, you can see when people is just doing the wrong stuff. I hope. Okay.
Jaco, so what is herding bias? If we can deal with a little bit not so boring theory, herding bias occurs when investors base decisions primarily on what other people are doing rather than independent analysis.
So, Prof, a simple explanation, even for me to understand. If everybody is buying it, it must be a good investment. How then other than that?
Yeah, Jaco, that's what we think, but unfortunately, investment doesn't always work like that.
But Prof, why does humans then tend to follow the crowd?
Jaco, I almost want to go back to the Stone Age and say that
So with the
for
investment in the,
thousands of years,
okay, no investments
we
in
followed the crowd for survival. I mean, if you have been to Pilansberg not too long ago, if there's a herd of Springbok, Impala, what happens if one spots fear or spots something or thinks there's fear and starts to run away?
The entire herd joins in.
And I think that's just what happens with us as humans.
So Prof, if that is the truth, and we talked about it, I think 2 weeks ago, why are you not running Comrades as yet? The masses are running. You must join in.
Because the masses are wrong. There's no need to run. Jaco, and psychologists call this also social proof, because when we are uncertain, we look at what other people are doing for guidance. And the larger the crowd, the more convincing this can become.
Prof, and I almost want to say it's easily understandable. I mean, it's difficult to go against the flow, to have your own views on something, especially if the masses goes the opposite way.
Because, Jaco, if I go with the masses, with the crowd, and we're wrong, we are all wrong together. If I go against the crowd and I'm wrong, I'm
standing
wrong on my
out.
own.
You're standing out.
Definitely. And that brings me to the, I'm sure the listeners have heard about FOMO.
Prof, that's a big problem in the Barnard household, is FOMO.
Fear of missing out. So, Jaco, would you care to explain that to us?
No, I'm just talking in general. I mean, whenever we go, we visited Namibia, Sossusvlei, then you start to climb a dune, and then you just climb the next one just to see, maybe there's something that you missed. You can't see, and then you go, and 2 hours later you see, okay, you're still just seeing dunes. You're not missing anything, but you're just afraid you're missing out on something.
Just maybe.
Yeah. And obviously, if we go back to investments, if everyone is making money and doing something, you have the fear of not also making money, the fear of
and
not
then you were
money.
the stupid one that didn't react.
Yeah. So Prof, do you think herding is always driven by greed?
Jaco, I don't think necessarily always. Maybe often, but not always. I think in many instances that can be insecurity. I don't know what to do, so I'm looking at what do other people do, and then do that. And like we have said, fear of missing out, fear of leaving behind. So probably there can be a lot of fear and not only greed that's driving this bias.
And then what we said, fear of looking foolish, fear of looking stupid, because
that's so true.
I mean, everyone did it and you didn't do it. How stupid can you be? Can't you see what's going on?
Exactly.
So Prof, obviously it feels safer, like you said earlier, being wrong together. Then you don't stand out.
Definitely, Jaco. And I think that's why we fall for this bias, because if we want to think independently, if we want to analyze it on our own, that actually requires courage.
Yeah, it requires a brave person.
A very brave person. And Jaco, and history is filled with examples of herding. I mean, if we just think about the dot-com bubble, when internet was the main thing and companies were listed and everybody wanted to buy shares in dot-com companies. I read articles that companies changed their names to X.com because the moment they did that, people bought shares in the company.
So, Prof, do you think 2 or 3 years down the line from now, in 2026, it's now 2026, 2 or 3 years down the line, people are going to say the AI bubble? You think it's going to be similar?
Jaco, it may actually be. I was at a conference the other day and they were specifically talking about that. And fundamentally, there's something that AI is bringing along, like with the internet.
And that's what happened with the .com bubble. Everyone just thought it's going to change the world. Yeah. And it did, but
not to the extent that, and that's the other part. We have to be realistic about the impact. And I think at this moment, we don't have a clear indication of how big the impact can be. The other day, I listened to something that Elon Musk say now. I sometimes frown upon what he's saying. And then he said, now in a few decades' time, AI would have been so good in increasing our productivity that there will be an oversupply in goods and there will actually be deflation and people will have to work less because we will just hand out stuff to them.
That's a very brave call to make.
That is a very brave call. And Jaco, then we saw the property bubble in the before the 2008 when we had the banks in the USA collapsing because everybody were investing in bonds that were guaranteed by properties.
Yeah, and you can borrow money and you could just keep on borrowing and people didn't look at the value of the property.
At that stage, banks were giving loans to people who were unemployed because property prices kept increasing and they thought, well, if you cannot pay, which you will probably not, we take back the property, we sell it for a profit.
Yeah.
And Jaco, then we also know about the cryptocurrency booms and all of those sort of stuff. So it's real. It's real.
Yeah, and then obviously we have the whole thing about just this, like you said earlier, the social media people talking about this stock and that stock and talking it up.
Jaco, yeah, and for that reason, we also saw it in South Africa. I was wondering when we were thinking about this bias, things like Kleuterzone and MTI with the cryptocurrency, was there not perhaps even a part of herding bias involved? Because everybody was buying Kleuterzone and everybody was buying crypto and making money with MTI. Was there not perhaps just a fear of missing out as well?
But Prof, if you think about actually all pyramid schemes, isn't that almost want to say the foundation of a pyramid scheme? Is the people driving a pyramid scheme, they know that if people around see someone is making money, the herd is making money, they're also going to join the herd. Definitely. So I think it's based on this bias.
And that's why there's always these referral fees with this, because they want the people that's in there to spread the word and get others to follow.
Yeah. So, Prof, I'm sure you have some research insights for the listeners.
Of course, Jaco. Of course.
That's the part that you get excited about and I fall asleep.
So our South African Behavioral Finance Research found that fewer than 20% of investors displayed strong herding bias.
I must admit, I'm actually surprised at being so low. I would have expected that to be more.
Jaco, I also thought about that, but then, I mean, I don't think we should look at the 20%. That's 1 in 5 people. That's still a lot of people.
And I almost want to say that's the people that buy pyramid schemes.
That's 12 million people in South Africa.
Yeah, so...
Jaco, and we saw that where people displayed herding, it was negatively linked to savings and to budgeting. So people that displayed herding bias saved less and budgeted less. And then what was interesting for me is that it appeared more strongly among middle income earners.
I must say that for me is interesting. I would expect it more with the lower income earners just because they maybe see an opportunity to make quick money, but that is based almost on the premise that this is based on greed. And we said earlier, it's not based on greed, it's based on fear, a big portion. And that is maybe where the middle income comes in. They're fearful that they're missing out.
And they have perhaps a little bit of money to invest or put aside for this type of investments.
Interesting, Prof. But I think on that point, it's time to take a break. And after the break, we'll get some give you some practical tips on herding bias.
Welkom terug na die breek en ons praat herding bias of Jaco, ek het gedink ek wil dit sommer noem skaapvooroordeel.
Ja, ek dink dis 'n goeie of maar ek dink die mooier vertaling is seker trop vooroordeel, maar skaap, ek meen om blindelings die skaap 'n skaap trop te volg. Dis maar net waar dit gaan.
Presies. So Jaco, kan ek jou weer 'n paar vragies vra vir ou laas?
Vra prof.
Het jy al ooit 'n belegging gekoop omdat almal daaroor praat?
Sjoe, nou mooi ding prof. Ek dink nie so nie. Ek moet sê ek sal nou my mening gee oor die algemeen oor herding bias of trop vooroordeel. Ek moet sê ons het nou gepraat oor jy moet nogal braaf wees om teen die stroom te gaan. Ek moet sê dalk is dit weer eens een van die voordele van emosioneel onintelligent te wees. Is ek dink nie ek laat my te veel deur die massas beïnvloed nie.
Jaco, ek moet ook daar sê, ek dink ek het al voorheen gesê, ek het vir myself eintlik so weerstand opgebou. As dit 'n opsweepery is of is 'n massa ding, dan as standaard antwoord bied ek eintlik weerstand.
Ja, so maar ek meen ons het nou gesien dis net 1 uit 5 mense wat dit sterk
so dalk is 2 van die ander 4 dan ek en jy.
Ja.
Jaco, het jy dit eintlik al geerken? Het jy al FOMO ervaar?
Ek dink almal ervaar dit dalk veralgemeen ek nou. Ek dink baie mense ervaar FOMO. Ek dink is wat mens doen daarmee. Hoe jy reageer op die FOMO. Ek dink uit 'n nuwe beleggingsoogpunt het ek 'n probleem. Ek dink ek moet eerlikwaar sê, ek sal baie goeders doen oor ek net bang is ek mis uit, maar ek dink wel uit 'n beleggingsoogpunt dink ek daar's ek nogal, ek sal nie sommer reageer nie. Ek sal dalk spyt wees, maar ek sal nie reageer op my emosie nie.
So Jaco, reageer jy gereeld op hot tips van vriende, kollegas, die nuus?
Nee, ek dink weer eens, ek dink daar's ek nogal 'n groot voorstander van as 'n ding baie geklim het, dan sal ek nie ek sal eerder iets koop wat onlangs geval het as iets wat baie gestyg het.
Dis sluit nou aan by my laaste vraag. Voel jy ongemaklik om iets te koop wat tans ongewild is?
Nee, ek moet sê ek hou eintlik daarvan. Ek wil nie sê dis deel van my beleggingsstrategie nie, maar ek sal makliker so iets koop as wat ek iets koop wat almal volg.
Fantasties. Jaco, jy het goed gedoen met my vragies. So kom ons praat 'n bietjie oor waar ons hierdie goed alles prakties sien. Ek dink een van die goed, en ons het al daaroor gepraat, is seker kripto.
Prof, ja, en ek moet sê kripto, mens kan seker nou amper sê is al ou nuus, want dit kom nou al met ons nou tussen 8 en 10 jaar. Ons het al baie gepraat oor kripto, ons het al 'n paar rand gemaak met kripto, dit kan ons eerlikwaar sê. Ons albei het kripto, maar ek dink nie dis van daai goed wat ek dis nou waar ek seker maar die bangbroeke myn waar ouens waar die risiko's vir my net te hoog om te sê daar's ouens wat hulle geld verdubbel het en verdriedubbel het. Is ek aan die ander kant gesê ja, maar wat is dit werd? Dit kan môre niks werd wees nie. So ek is net te bang.
Nee, ek dink Jaco en ons het albei later in die siklus eers betrokke geraak en dit was nadat ons so 'n bietjie huiswerk eers gedoen het en die besluit geneem het dat dit moet geld wees wat ons bereid is om te verloor.
Ja, en ek moet sê ek wil amper daar kan ek nou amper iets sê oor die FOMO gedeelte. Ek meen ons het gepraat. Ek meen ek het my eerste en enigste Bitcoin anders dan ek dink ek baie het gekoop vir R30,000. Nou dis verskriklik baie geld, R30,000. En ek het al die helfte verkoop want dit het toegeneem. En as ek toegeweet het dat ek nou weet, is ek spyt, ja, dan moes ek 100 gekoop het, verstaan? Maar
absoluut.
Maar ek het dit nie gaan doen nie. So dis wat ek nou probeer sê het is, ja, ek is spyt, maar ek sal nie optree en nou sê okay, nou gaan ek dit baie koop want ek is net te bangbroek.
Dis absoluut so Jaco en ek wil nou die volgende een dink ek wil amper sê ons het dit gesien in COVID met paniek aankope. Ek kan onthou al die grappies wat daar was oor toiletpapier, want almal het gaan toiletpapier koop toe party mense begin toiletpapier koop en sekere winkels raak daar sonder.
Prof, laat my nou baie, dan gaan ek my ouderdom weggee, maar voor die 94 verkiesings het dit dieselfde gegaan in die land.
Blikkies kos opgestapel.
Ja, so Ek ons eet nou nog van my ma se baked beans wat sy gekoop het toe in die Export. Ja, ek moet sê dis nou waar ek nogal 'n kans sal vat om te spekuleer, nie te belê nie, waar as dit so iets gebeur en markte val verskriklik, dan sal ek sommer nogal koop.
Ja, want dis 'n geleentheid, maar weer eens jy gaan 'n berekende risiko neem.
Maar ek verkoop nie saam nie, ek koop as almal verkoop. So ek gaan teen die stroom.
Jaco, en ek dink een van die ek wil eintlik sê dit sluit vir my aan sosiale media, WhatsApps, ons Suid-Afrikaners hou van braai en dit gee vir ons 'n groepie waar ons eintlik mekaar kan aanspoor om maar herders of skapies te wees.
Ja, ons en ek wil amper jy speel op iemand se emosies en jy hits hom aan en ek dink dis eintlik maar waar hierdie soos ons al vroeër gesê het hierdie piramideskemas ek dink amper maak misbruik van mense wat 'n sagte plekkie voor het.
Dit is Jaco en dan weet waar dit in die verlede ek het oor die naweek met my kinders vertel. Het ek nog vir hulle vertel hoe dat ons 'n taak gehad het op skool en dit gaan oor die spesifieke digter en hulle het vir ons gesê ons moet navorsing doen oor die agtergrond en die CV van die digter en goed en ek het 'n brief geskryf. Ek dink dit was nog E.L. de Villiers en hy het ek dink by 'n koerant was hy 'n redakteur of iets en ek het 'n brief geskryf, posseël opgepak vir die koerant en ek was verskriklik opgewonde toe ek 'n paar weke terug of later 'n koevert in die pos kry en hy het vir my actually sy CV gestuur.
Sure. Okay.
En dit het weke gevat om inligting uitmekaar uit te haal en te ontvang, maar vandag, as jy opstaan, dan is daar hordes nuwe skakels op sosiale media beskikbaar van al die nuutste nuus.
Ja, en jy gaan waarskynlik jou CV sommer vir 'n AI vra om te skryf.
Ja, of jy gaan hom op Google net maklik kry. Ja. Dit was nog in die dae voor voor e-posse en internet.
Nee, amper dit was. So prof, ek dink kom ons praat so 'n bietjie, hoe onderskei mense tussen wanneer is dit goeie advies en wanneer is dit die skare wat net mekaar volg? En ek dink ons het al grappenderwys hier gesê, as die man op die straat en niks teen die man op die straat nie, maar eintlik wat ons net sê Jan publiek oor iets begin praat, dan moet jy bekommerd raak. Dis amper hoe dit vir my voel. As almal begin aandele koop, dan is dit tyd om nou uit te klim.
Ek dink so Jaco en ek dink vir my is die belangrikste net gaan doen 'n bietjie huiswerk voordat jy daar inspring. En dit kan begin deur net jou eie goeie beleggingsplan te hê. Wat sê ek onthou toe ons saam met my skoonpa in 'n beleggingsklub was, ons het sulke 5 punte gehad waarna ons gaan kyk voordat ons 'n belegging maak. En ons het ons in enige nuwe goed as daar berigte is van hierdie maatskappy gaan 'n nuwe produk ontwikkel, dan het ons altyd teruggegaan na daardie lysie en ons het na daardie 5 elemente gaan kyk.
So prof, ek wil amper hier inspring en sê, so wat ons hier amper vir die luisteraar probeer sê is, dis nie verkeerd om te luister wat gebeur in die mark en jou ore oop te hou nie en oop te wees vir geleenthede nie, maar moet dit nie blindelings navolg nie. So as jy hoor van goed, gaan doen jou huiswerk, gaan doen 'n bietjie, jy sal hierdie woord gehou van, maar dit is seker nie reg gebruik nie, gaan doen navorsing en vind uit of dit wat jy gehoor het, word dit gestaaf of is dit ou nuus, want dis baie keer wat gebeur, né?
Almal sê dit by jou uitkom, is dit ou nuus.
Het dit al laas jaar gebeur en iemand vertel dit asof dit gister is die nuutste ding, maar dis eintlik stok ou nuus en die mark het al gereageer daarvoor en jy het al voorheen gepraat van Charles Hatting en die antwoord is, as jy van iets hoor, man op straat, dan het die mark al lankal weet hulle al lankal daarvan en hulle het dit lankal verdiskonteer in die waarde van 'n belegging.
Net so, Jaco, so jy moet fokus op die fundamentele feite van die belegging en nie net oor die populariteit van wat tans aan die gang is nie. En dan, ja, soos wat ek en jy ook gesê het, mens kan spekulatiewe beleggings hê, maar beperk dit. Ek het verlede week met mense gesels oor hulle, kom ons noem dit generational wealth, wat ons al van tevore oor gepraat het. En toe het ons in die gesprek besluit, maar hulle kan 'n gedeelte van hulle fondse op sy sit vir spekulatiewe beleggings, maar dan weet jy beperk dit wat jy kan verloor.
Ja, en ek dink ons het al daar gesê, daar's niks fout met spekuleer nie. Ek en jy noem dit monopoly geld en dit klink verskriklik. Partykeer ek dink arrogant as mense dit sê, maar wat ons daarmee bedoel is, dis geld wat ons sê, as ek dit verloor, het dit nie 'n impak op my aftrede nie. Dit het nie 'n aftrede of ek kan kos koop hierdie maand nie. As dit uitwerk, gaan ek net lekkerder aftree. Dis eintlik wat dit beteken.
Absoluut. Jaco, so ons moet regtig bietjie die markgeraas ignoreer en een manier om ons daarmee te help is om iemand te hê met wie jy kan gesels. 'n Onafhanklike adviseur of 'n vriend wat daarom kundig is, om net jouself, ek wil amper sê, te hou by jou doelwitte en jou strategie.
Ja, ek dink dis die moeilike ding en om daai dissipline aan die dag te lê om daarby te hou en jou nie te steur aan hierdie geraas buite jou.
Maar Jaco, voordat ons by die boeresom kom, onthou ek nou net iets wat Warren Buffett gesê het en dit sluit aan by wat jy ook vroeër gesê het. Hy het gesê, be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful.
Prof, daai is in 'n groot mate. Ek het nou gepraat van my beleggingsfilosofie, maar dit raak so 'n bietjie daaraan. Maar ook eintlik uit 'n spekulatiewe oogpunt uit, meer as uit 'n suiwer beleggingsoogpunt. So prof, het jy vir ons luisteraars 'n diep moeilike boeresom?
Ons sal een nadat jy die jingle gespeel het.
Okay, kom maar jy nou vinnig dink.
So luisteraars, ek wil julle hierdie week uitdaag, gaan dink bietjie aan jou laaste groot finansiële besluit wat jy geneem het en dan vra jy jouself af, was dit deel van jou plan of het jy dit gedoen omdat ander dit alreeds gedoen het?
Ja, dis diep. Ek dink ons moet daai Bybelversies weer vir die mense lees. Maar op daai noot, ons hoop julle het 'n heerlike week.
Lekker week vir julle.